Hello everyone and welcome back to this channel. I just wanted to share with you 10 books that I've read in the past 10 months and hopefully you will like at least some of them. It is a very good way to pass your time in this quarantine and one of the things that I can highly recommend. Let's get started. The first on my recommendation list is from Ben Aronovich, a series of I think 6 or 7 books called Rivers of London. It kind of revolves around the adventures of Peter Grant, and Peter Grant is a police officer in the Special Investigations Unit in the Metropolitan Police Force, or the Met. They investigate all kinds of weird shit. Peter Grant doesn't know it himself, but Peter Grant is a magician. It's a great series, it's really entertaining, and it's not at all childish. I can really recommend it. So the next book is for all the hustlers out there. When I say hustlers, people who are trying to make a secondary income, let's call it side hustle. It's by this guy called Chris Gullibo, and this book basically talks about how you can kind of generate an idea to make a secondary income in just 27 days. It's not as easy as it sounds, but it's just a good book for you to get motivated. If you've ever thought about doing something on the side, this time right now is especially good for it because there's tons and tons of things you can do straight from your computer. So go ahead, get that book and listen to it. The next book on my list is Forget My Name. It's by this author called J.S. Monroe. So Forget My Name is a thriller where there is a lady who has forgotten her own name and she's forgotten everything about herself. All she remembers is this one house where she thinks that she used to live. But apparently it is completely occupied by someone else, and then the story goes from there. So I can definitely recommend it. It's worth a shot. So next on my list is another thriller. The book is called The Anonymous Girl. It's by Greer Hendricks and Sarah Pekkanen. So there is this girl who becomes part of this psychological experiment that one of these very famous psychologists is running. All she has to do is answer a few questions and answer those questions absolutely truthfully. She just goes in and she starts filling this questionnaire, and suddenly her entire life is being controlled by this one person, and she finds herself in the middle of this very weird kind of a triangle, and she has to get herself out of it. So one more book in the fantasy series, The Magicians. It's a series by Lev Grossman. So this is a story about a boy called Quentin who goes into this school called Break Bills and finds himself in the middle of an adventure. It's a more adult version of the Harry Potter books, but it's something, if you enjoyed Harry Potter, you would definitely enjoy this. From a completely different category, it is self-help. It is a book called The 5 AM Club by Robin Sharma. Okay, so I don't really read this kind of books a lot, but this time I was just curious because I've never read any of his books. I was listening to The 5 AM Club and I have to say that it is a very well written book. Concept is super easy. The whole book basically tells you about the advantages of waking up at 5 AM, how you can wake up at 5 AM and what you should do after you wake up at 5 AM. Just cannot wake up at 5 AM and expect everything to be magically awesome. For me, it was just like the storytelling and the way it was written that was pretty charming. It's worth a shot. Okay, next up is an author that I have started to really like because of the kind of writing that they have. 2 books by the author Blake Crouch. The first one, it's called Dark Matter. It just starts with a guy who's just woken up and he's abducted by someone. The person just asks him, "Are you happy with your life?" And then suddenly he wakes up again and he finds himself surrounded by men in hazmat suits and he doesn't recognize anyone, but one of the guys just talks to him and says, "Welcome back, Jason." It's about a guy who kind of discovers a way to redo life. If you're into thrillers and if you're into a book that is extremely fast-paced and keeps you hooked, Dark Matter is definitely one for you. Another book that I can really recommend from Blake Crouch is called Recursion. Recursion talks about a disease where people start to get memories, like very vivid memories of lives they have never lived. They remember very clearly about being married to someone or being pregnant or having a baby and growing up and becoming old and hundreds of other things that never really happened to them. And this is making a lot of people go crazy. So our lead protagonist is a scientist who is trying to figure out a way to stop this before they are caught in this endless loop. Really good book, keeps you on the edge. Recursion by Blake Crouch. Please check it out. Are you liking the list till now? If you're liking it, hit those buttons down there, the like and the subscribe. We could really use it. Okay, the next book is for all the people who are interested in mysteries and magic. Again, it's by a guy called Patrick Rothfuss. Now, Patrick Rothfuss became very famous for writing these particular sets of books. It's called the Kingkiller Chronicles. So this book follows the legendary character Quoth. Now, Quoth is telling his story. and his entire story are the Kingkiller Chronicles, all the way to the present, and then from the present there's like a bunch of books that keep the story going. It is a book that starts off very slow, but if you just give it a little bit of time, this is a great story and it will keep you hooked for many days. And again, the Kingkiller Chronicles, Patrick Rothfuss, definitely worth a read. So the last book that I want to recommend, it's by a person called Dan O'Reilly, who is a professor, and he has written this book based on a lot of research called Predictably Irrational. So it talks about very interesting concepts. So how rational are we as human beings? So if you are given a branded medicine versus a non-branded medicine, even if they have exactly the same thing, would you go with the branded one or the non-branded one? How important is this choice for you, and is it really a choice? It is a wonderfully written book. It has some very good real life examples and real life studies on real life intelligent people. I think of one of those Ivy League schools, maybe I think Harvard or something, and people like that who go to such universities, they are also extremely predictable. So they're not any better at making these rational decisions. So we might believe that we are very different, our decisions are different than anyone else, but there is a certain predictability and there is a pattern in everything that we do. And this book really captures that predictability of irrationality of people. Really good book. I can totally recommend it again. Yeah, so these are all the books that I recommend that you finish during the quarantine season, and I hope you all stay inside and I hope that you all stay safe.